Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Riley Gaines Show. If you're watching at youtube.com, you can see I'm not in my home studio, back on the road again, but for good reason. Today is the March for Life, which you guys know, we welcomed our daughter into the world almost 4 months ago now, which it's crazy. They tell you like time passes by really quick and you kind of roll your eyes at that. But then she's here and it's cliche, but time has really flown by. Anyways, the necessity and the urgency to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves, I feel very viscerally now when you have a daughter, a child of your own, and in looking at her, yes, she's small. Yes, she's fragile. Yes, she's dependent on me and my husband. But nonetheless, she has inherent value. Anyways, very excited about this. The vice president is going to be headlining the March for Life, which is very timely, given the fact that his wife, the second lady, Vance, just announced that they were welcoming their fourth baby into the world, another little baby boy. So, reminder that we are living in the most pro-family, pro-life administration, certainly in modern history. I think Fox News reported the other day that there are 68 kids in Trump's cabinet, which majority of those come from Secretary Duffy. I think him and Rachel have 9 kids. Pete Hegseth has 7 kids. Marco Rubio has 4 kids. President Trump has 5 kids. J.D. Vance now has 4 kids. Caroline Leavitt has 2, right? So pro-family, pro-life, they live it in their personal lives and, of course, in the policies that they advocate for. We have an exciting show today, but before I tell you about any of that, let's talk for a second about something people don't like to admit that they're struggling with, which is private student loan debt. So if your monthly payment feels impossible, or if you're barely keeping up, or maybe you've already fallen behind, and if every other lender has basically slammed the door in your face, this is where Y-Refi comes in. Y-Refi does something that almost no one else will do. They refinance private student loans that other companies won't touch, even if your credit score isn't perfect, even if you're already in default. Instead of putting you into a one-size-fits-all plan, they work with you to create a budget that fits your lifestyle and what you can actually afford. That means lower monthly payments, a low fixed interest rate, and finally being able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. If private student loan debt has been weighing you down or holding you back, understand you do not have to feel like that forever. Go to Y-Refi.com, that is YREFY.com, and make sure you tell them that Riley sent you. I wanted to spend the first few minutes of today's episode debunking the latest liberal lie about ICE. This was posted on the Democrats' X page. It says, in Minneapolis, ICE arrested a 5-year-old coming home from preschool and tried to use him as human bait. His teachers described him as a bright young student. These monsters are sick. And of course, they included photos of this young boy. And he's beautiful. He's adorable. He has like these chubby little cheeks. You can see this photo of him wearing this hat. He's very clearly in the snow. He's got his backpack on as if he just left school. Of course, the intention here is to pull at your heartstrings. And maybe that would be effective if the story were true. Now, the Department of Homeland Security posted this from their official X page. They said, ICE did not target a child. The child was abandoned. On January 20th, ICE conducted a targeted operation to arrest Adrian Alexander Conejo Arias, an illegal alien from Ecuador who was released into the U.S. by the Biden administration. As agents approached, the driver fled on foot, abandoning his child. For the child's safety, one of our ICE officers remained with the child while the other officers comprehended the father. Parents are asked if they want to be removed with their children, or ICE will place the children with a safe person the parent designates. This is consistent with past administration's immigration enforcement. Parents can take control of their departure and receive a free flight and $2,600 with the CBP Home app. By using the CBP Home app, illegal aliens reserve the chance to come back the right and legal way. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance was in Minneapolis today, and I think he delivered a beautiful response to this. Let's watch it.
The fact that we're standing behind law enforcement, and I'm proud of the fact that we're enforcing the country's laws. But, you asked a question about this 5-year-old kid. I actually saw this terrible story while I was coming to Minneapolis. We just left Toledo, Ohio this morning for an economic messaging event. And I see this story, and I'm a father of a 5-year-old, actually, a 5-year-old little boy. And I think to myself, oh my God, this is terrible. How did we arrest a 5-year-old? Well, I do a little bit more follow-up research. And what I find is that the 5-year-old was not arrested, that his dad was an illegal alien, and then when they went to arrest his illegal alien father, the father ran. So the story is that ICE detained a 5-year-old. Well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to let a 5-year-old child freeze to death? Are they not supposed to arrest an illegal alien in the United States of America? If the argument is that you can't arrest people who have violated our laws because they have children, then every single parent is going to be completely given immunity from ever being the subject of law enforcement. That doesn't make any sense. No one thinks that makes any sense. Now, you know, there are so many of these cases like that where if you just understand the context, there have been a number of situations that I've looked into personally where I say, wait a second, we don't want ICE arresting American citizens. They're supposed to be enforcing the immigration laws against illegal aliens. So then I look into it and I find out that the American citizen who was arrested took a swing at an ICE officer.
I'm so hoping this is our next president. He speaks with such clarity and confidence and compassion. That was a compassionate response. He starts by saying, look, I have a 5-year-old child. He says, I don't want to see Americans arrested by ICE, but he perfectly lays out the real and truthful account of what happened, which is not what liberal mainstream media outlets are doing. They're spreading a totally false narrative. A narrative, again, being spread by massive news organizations and the Democratic Party, which is actually incredibly dangerous, especially for people who aren't inclined to watch and follow the news closely. Maybe I'm sure you know people in your life who just kind of read the headline of the article and they see this photo of, again, this beautiful young boy wearing this hat, standing out in the cold with his backpack on. It pulls at your heartstrings, but it's not true. The media is lying to drive a false narrative. Now, that doesn't mean that we should trust the government unconditionally either, okay? But we should consider at the very least that the media, as with every topic, every subject, probably isn't telling the full truth. And so I'm kind of two minds here. Like, is this arm of left-wing media, and again, kind of like the entirety of the Democratic Party, are they just really good manipulators, which I'm inclined to believe because they've manipulated people into believing that men can become women, or are people just too lazy and unwilling to think critically and for themselves and independently without being told how to feel or what to say or what to think? Honestly, I think it's both. I think they're counting on people being lazy and stupid. They're banking on it, actually. Take the Washington Post, for example. They posted about this story today. It was not until the 5th paragraph into the piece did they acknowledge that the father was an illegal alien who fled on foot, abandoning his child. Not until the 5th paragraph. Why did they do that? They're banking on you being lazy and stupid. That's what they hope. They don't want you to make it that deep into the piece, which kind of says a lot about their product. They want you to read the headline. They want you to read the first paragraph where they tell you about this 5-year-old boy who was detained by ICE on his way home from preschool. They include the photos. That's what they want you to see. They don't want you to make it to the 5th paragraph. So I encourage you, actually, I am begging you, I am pleading, think critically, think independently, think for yourself. Use your brain. It is a muscle. Exercise it. And I'm not just telling you to only watch conservative news organizations. Of course not. I think there's value actually in listening to both sides. Read the Washington Post article, watch Fox News. Then I actually think it's easier to form an unbiased opinion based on your own moral conviction of what your heart and your head is telling you is the righteous, good, just, fair, moral thing. And it bothers me because there are so many people on the other side of these issues, whether it's, I think, really in particularly these social justice issues, that are otherwise smart people, but they just don't think. The media that we consume now is so incendiary because the reporters, they're not actually journalists. Well, maybe they call themselves that, but I think a better way to describe them is activists. They're approaching the discussion or the topic already with an inherent informed opinion, a bias. And you can use the whole both sides thing, sure, right? Of course, again, nobody is perfect. Neither side is perfect. But it is certainly happening from one side far more frequently and far more in a destructive and dangerous manner than the other side. The language that they're using, the made-up stories, is exactly why people feel morally justified in attacking ICE agents. That's why they have to stay masked and cover their faces, because they understand the repercussions that would potentially come their way because people feel justified in raining terror on these law enforcement officers because of the way that they are portrayed. So I will say thank you to our ICE agents. Thank you for not abandoning that 5-year-old boy like his father did. I'm glad and I'm grateful that we have law enforcement officers that will provide care to kids when their parents abandon them. In the freezing cold weather, mind you. I'm glad that they sheltered him from the cold weather. I'm glad that they watched over him and stepped in until he could be placed under safe adult supervision. Yes, I know the dad was scared of being caught and deported out of this country, but how much more scared was the child who was left alone? My final plea to you all, do not let compassion or what you believe to be compassion cloud you or suspend you from thinking critically. Now, I know I was just talking about how insufferable left-wing mainstream media is, but the most insufferable arm of left-wing media is left-wing sports media. I've got a clip I want to show you guys. Let's watch it here.
Hey, Amanda. Congratulations on the win. I've been asking a lot of the American players just how it feels to play under the American flag right now, and I'm curious how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in America, so I'm always proud to represent my country. And yeah, a lot of us are doing really well, and it's great to see a lot of, great athletes on the women's side, on the men's side. So yeah, I feel like we're all doing a great job representing ourselves.
And sorry, do you mind if I follow up?
Sure.
Sorry, just to clarify a little, I mean, sort of in the context of the last year of everything that's been happening in the U.S., does that complicate that feeling at all?
I don't think that's relevant.
The fatigue is so real. A little bit of context here. This is Amanda Anisimova. This is at the Australian Open. Clearly, this is a post-match presser. The reporter is from The Athletic. He is clearly trying to bait Amanda into bashing America, the country that she plays for, the flag that she plays under, and he insinuates living in America the past year, clearly taking a hit at President Trump, his administration, and the state of the country under his leadership. He wanted Amanda Anisimova to say that orange man bad, Trump is bad. And she wasn't the first athlete, the first tennis player that he asked us to. He also asked Coco Gauff the same question, which she responded back and said she felt fatigued talking about politics, but it was hard to be a black woman in the United States. My response to this is to get this man out of the press room. What is he doing there? His job is to talk about sports, not politics. Not baiting people into saying something anti-American or anti-conservative. Sports is supposed to be the one place where you don't have to think about politics or discuss your political views because honestly, they don't matter. That's not what is contributing to the most successful tennis player or soccer player or football team. It has nothing to do with your politics and everything to do with your athletic ability, your talent, your skill set. That's what he should be asking these young women about. Not President Trump. This was just a gross form of sports journalism. Really, you can't even call it that at all. And I think Amanda did a fantastic job in her response. I don't know if this was, being media trained. I'm sure she had different things she probably would have liked to say, regardless of, again, how she feels politically. To be asked that as a incredibly accomplished female athlete is honestly just a knock and incredibly insulting. But to respond back and say, that's not relevant. She made him look like the idiot that he is. It was a perfect answer to a stupid question. And honestly, when I saw this, it's kind of giving this energy. Honestly, I love this meme. It has become so applicable in so many different settings. And I think it's proof that this guy has no idea what it takes to be a world-class athlete. There's a million things that I could think of to ask Amanda that I'm curious about, that has led to the very clear success and deserved success that she has. A million questions, and he goes down this route. So, Amanda, if you want a real interview by someone who is genuinely curious and amazed by your athleticism, come on the Riley Gaines Show. Now, I have one more thing I want to talk to you guys about because I feel very strongly about it, and it has become my entire timeline on X at the moment, but I think I'm going to save it for a different episode, is the Meghan Trainor controversy. She just welcomed a beautiful baby girl into the world. Actually, she did not welcome the beautiful baby girl. Her surrogate did. I've got some thoughts here, and they might not be very popular, but we are going to save that for next week. So thank you guys for tuning into the Riley Gaines Show on this happy and dandy Friday. We're going to be marching for life. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share these episodes far and wide. It means the world to me when you do. So we'll see you next week.